The second point that I just want to make is that we have the tools to respond to this situation in the European context. As I said, it doesn't have to be a situation of crisis. The whole rationale behind the development of the common European asylum system was that we would be ready to respond to situations of mass forced displacement. With the crisis in the Balkans in the 1990s, we didn't have a common European asylum system. We didn't have the kinds of legal tools that we now have within the European Union. The very rationale for developing or attempting to develop a common European asylum system was to try to respond to and correct those errors. We have since 2001 the Temporary Protection Directive within the EU, which was specifically designed to respond to a situation of mass influx, but it has never been used. It has never been deployed for political reasons. It's considered that it might act as a pull factor if Europe was seen as responding in a way that would give temporary protection to situations of mass influx. It was still available to us in these last 2-3 years to respond to the current situation. But again, it was not invoked, it was not relied upon, and instead we had to go through the negotiation process to get to where we are now with the relocation mechanism. But we had the tools in place. We had a temporary protection directive that could have been deployed. We have the common European asylum system, faltering though it is. We also have core human rights protections through the European Convention on Human Rights and the Charter of Fundamental Rights. So we could rethink the carrier sanctions, we could rethink the visa requirements, we could look more closely at humanitarian visas, and we also need to look at the whole situation of family reunion and rights to family reunification. So we have many Syrian nationals, other refugees and migrants in Ireland. The whole system of family reunification is not working. It is very slow, it's bureaucratic, and it's unduly constrained. So it doesn't allow for siblings, for example, to be brought through the family reunification system. And again, that is completely unnecessary. That could be a way of ensuring that people could travel lawfully and safely without being pushed into these hazardous and dangerous journeys.
I suppose in terms of what we kind of should be doing, these are just some personal reflections. I certainly think people should be living in their own homes. I have no major objection to people, some kind of whole place for people to go at the beginning, because that might be just logistically, but certainly very, very quickly that people should have their own place. I personally think that language tuition, and this is just something from recent experience of a particular community in Cork that I've been working with, have not been able to access appropriate, adequate language tuition in a way that is suitable for their needs. And I think we have to really look at suitable language tuition, and also migrants of all description. And I think this is something I really want to be heard. They value education so much, something we take so much for granted in this country. Education is something that does travel, qualifications do travel, they matter. And I believe personally that any kind of level of education that's available to people, if possible, should be accredited. There are all these things, over and over again, every time we did any research, and even though you thought that you were providing good information, over and over again, people ask for information. There is never enough information and ways of getting information about our society to people. I put in the joining up the dots, because there are so many incidents, and this is very recent experiences of where people are not working together. Social welfare, social workers, hospital, housing, and questions around all of that. As Piers said earlier, the letting cultures thrive and all the questions around that, but it is so important. And as I said, talking, asking and listening. If we don't know, we just ask. It's not that complicated. How do you know? You ask people and you listen and you actually hear what they're saying. One of the things I felt also very strongly about, and I think this I still do, is there was a lot of, we were all often going to celebrate, and that's really good, and it is important that we have such celebrations. You know, there was a lot of cutting of ribbons, and there still is, and that's really nice. But we have to, you know, it's good to celebrate here and there diversity and stuff, but there is also a lot of paying lip service. And I can remember some people in very, very serious situations being asked along, including by ourselves, to go to things, and the same service or the same council or the same government actually really not respecting diversity. So the cutting of the ribbons was something I have strong personal feelings about. And then also kind of being researched to death and then ignoring it. People got very tired of that, and I think we have to be careful of that, particularly as an academic community. I just want to repeat again, I'm sorry about the ribbons, and again. And then not to, you know, to tolerate intolerance. There were certain debates that could kind of easily, and I've begun to hear happening even now, sort of, for example, the homelessness versus refugee issue. You know, I know it's simplistic, and one might say it's not either or, but at the same time, we those of us who are here in the room who are interested, and we do have to counter those arguments and find ways of getting that across to the broader population. And the undercurrents that are there, you know, that is a worrying conversation that's beginning to happen. I think one of the biggest learning things that I personally had from a long experience was I feel that we expected people to be at where we're at. If I went over and lived in some other part of the world, in Nigeria or whatever else, I can't be expected to be in that same place, understanding the way things operate there. And I think one of the things we did, we didn't do well, was we in some ways we wanted things to go faster than a population coming in were able to kind of keep up with, if you know what I mean. So there was a very, you know, we have to get away from the them and us, and we do have to create a we, and we have to think, and we have to continue to think who is that us now, you know. We are different as a country now, and we have to figure out who we are, and we have to continue to have those dialogues and debates, and it is not easy.